Let's make the slide a little. There we go. Let's share this real fast. Catherine, how's it going? I'm going good. Trying to do a little promoting. Just trying to figure out this wacky business. Uh, really, I haven't had a. I'm not promoting anything right now. I was feeling it, so I thought that I would just do a quick live stream here. Let me take a picture of myself. Um, Hello, Charlie don't serve. What up, William? Yeah, I mean, I'm not bored, but watched football all day and didn't get a chance to watch uh, AEW Collision, so I thought I would come on here and just see what's happening. And what's happening is it's Sunday night, 7:40ish my time. How many hours of PlayStation did you play? None today. Sunday, I was tired from last night. I had a show at the Comedy Store, closed out the main room. I had a 12:15 spot, but unfortunately, everyone ran the light, or most everyone ran the light. My good friend Kim Congdon was the only one who stuck to her time, and she gave me a very nice intro. But for a 12:15 spot, I went on at 1 o'clock. And it's a late arriving crowd at the Comedy Store. People, especially for the late show, people are, they go out to dinner 7, 8 o'clock. Dinner's probably 2, 3 hours or whatever it is. And so the late show at the Comedy Store is very popular. So when you go up last, you still have to do like 40, 50 minutes to an hour, which is no problem for me. Ross Incognito, what up? But, when all the comics have run the light, the crowd's very tired. So it's can be a tough set. But I did very well. I'm not going to lie, William, and say I killed. Jason, what up? I would say, honestly, I borderline killed the first 20 minutes. And then the crowd got a little tired. At that point, it was close to 1:30. I still have to do a half hour. I mean, I don't have to. I mean, technically, I could have gotten off the stage in 15 minutes. But I knew a lot of the waitresses were last call and check drops, and um, which is another tough thing about going on when the checks are getting dropped, because obviously people aren't really paying attention to you. They're trying to figure out the tip and all that stuff. And since the Comedy Store doesn't have valet parking, a lot of people park at meters. So, that's right around the time when their meters are up. So it's a difficult spot for most comics, but I'm kind of used to it. It's what they call at the Comedy Store. It's affectionately known as the Kinnison spot. And lately, well, Brody Stevens used to do it, and then Brian Holtzman does it when he's in town. And now that Brian is pretty much in Austin, not full time, but for a significant amount of time, I get it, because I'm one of the few comics up there who can do a competent 45 minutes to an hour under rough circumstances. I mean, you've got, shows in the other rooms closing out, so the kitchen is quite noisy. You can hear hallway conversations because, like, when the belly room and the original room shows are out, people just kind of loiter in the hallway. And then people go in the back bar area, which is like right outside the main room exit or entrance. Lambda, lambda, lambda. 6 people, man. That's a lot for me. Hit the like, people. It helps. Yeah, lambda, lambda, lambda. Anything helps. As silly as it seems, hitting the like does help. Uh, Retweeting it helps. Sharing it helps. Um, you know, it, I mean, it's no stone can be unturned in the help situation. Thank you, Lambda, Lambda, Lambda. Lois is doing okay. She uh, has a heart murmur, which don't really go away. But me and Gail, my 4 exes ago, that's Gail's mom, um, we're on top of it. And she also had some fluid in her lungs that, who knows what that could be. So, it's just, me and Gail to some people, it's a strange relationship. I dated Gail from, was it 2007 to 2013. Uh, and we got Lois in 2011. So we do a very good job taking care of her. It's a tag team effort. We split all the costs down the middle. You know, uh, it's it's a strange but effective relationship. So, but thank you for asking, Catherine, and thank you, Johnny, for the prayers. Thank you, Ross. Everyone loves Lois. She's the most iconic dog in LA comedy history. She's actually been on the stage with me in the main room on a Saturday night because Lois has severe separation anxiety even at her older age. She does not like being left alone. Or she doesn't like being left home alone. Um, so one night I put her in the green room of the main room, and there's 2 rooms in the green room. There's the front area, and then there's the back area. There's a full working shower, and I guess it would be like if you had an A-list headliner, they would hang out there, and then their entourage or whatever would hang out in the front part. I put Lois in the A room headliners part of the green room, shut both doors, so, her bark could still be heard from the stage. So I had to bring her out on stage, and here's the funny thing, she literally fell asleep on the stage. The crowd, and it was a really packed, um, house. I'll post a, picture on Instagram tomorrow of it, um, and she was totally fine. Yeah, it's a good arrangement, I get along good with, I'd say 98% of my exes. So, I've always been like that. Um, but especially because most of, if not all of them, have been comics or comic adjacent that I know I'm going to bump into them at some point. So why have a contentious relationship. So, but some in particular are still mad at me. So just kind of deal with it on a case by case basis. Oh, I get it, William. Um, like I have one ex, without saying who they are, she doesn't talk to any of her exes. Once they break up, they're they're done. Now, I don't think I could ever be like that, but she is. So, I mean, some people when they cut off people, it's for good. I mean, there was a time when me and Gail didn't get along very much, but we still like were cordial, mainly because of the dog. Uh, I'm not sure how cordial we would have been if Lois wasn't in our life, but we probably would have come around eventually. Uh, yes, and well, Ross, it's funny, like that restaurant where I believe it was where Marshall Burrow was with the two whores, uh, and then I think it was Juan and Warren came in and snap their fingers and they leave. That's that restaurant, and it literally looks that way to this day. The inside, the sign, it is exactly the same, 100%. It's an Argentinian restaurant. So I'm kind of surprised it's lasted this long in LA. I mean, it's not like there is a gigantic Argentinian population, to my knowledge. And then that building where Nikki Six and Tommy Lee beat up Bobby Blotzer, dressed up as cops. That whoa, that facade um, is still that looks just the same. So some parts of LA just don't change. Melrose is one of them. I mean, if you walk down Melrose um, today, it looks relatively similar to how it did in the 80s. There's still tons of stores. Now, half of them are literally closed, and then the other half are open, but I never see customers in there, um, which is weird because, um, it's like they're money laundering fronts. Like, I'll see clothing stores that literally I haven't seen anyone in there the last 10 times I've walked by. But, it's like there's a vitamin store. I live essentially off of Santa Monica Boulevard, and there's one vitamin store close to where I live where for 15 years, really 20 years, I've lived in this location almost 23 years. I swear to God, I've seen under five people in this store in those 23 years. But, who knows? Guy could be selling roids or something, or maybe they have a huge online business. But I'm glad you like that video. Back for More, it's a good song. I mean, that's Rat at their peak. And then, with each subsequent album, they kind of went down a little bit. Yeah, who is subsidizing that rent? I mean, it's weird. Like, uh, I mean, really, the only two stores on Melrose that have lasted are the Starbucks and the Urban Outfitters, which, um, I mean, the Starbucks is pretty popular, and the Urban Outfitters has survived. I mean, I don't know how they do sales wise because I haven't bought very much from there. Oh my God, Ben Jones from Australia. Mama, 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 mama. Hello. But there used to be some great 80s rock stores on Melrose that were awesome to get like cheap leather pants, but they looked good. And like, if you wanted to look like Rat or Motley Crue, there was a couple stores like long before Hot Topic where you could get some cool looking clothes pretty cheaply. Um, and then Let me see who, what 80s rock and metal. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a time like that was long before I was into John Barbados. So I did a lot of shopping on Melrose, and now it's caters. If you walk on Melrose, it's because it's right by Fairfax High. There's a lot of urban kids, a lot of rap, like barber shops and burger stands and a lot of shoe stores. There's a place called Shoe Palace. I don't know if they have shoe palaces elsewhere in America, but there's two. There's a huge one on the corner of Highland and I think Sunset, and then there's one on Melrose, and so I might do more late night insomnia tours. I'm trying to think of. I mean, the Back for More video was pretty easy to do because I'm sure Rat didn't have a great budget at that time. So I'm sure they called up Tommy Lee and Nick, hey, you want to be in this video? So they probably didn't have to pay them. And um, I think Jakey Lee was in there. I think Ozzy was in there. So I think Rat went on tour with Ozzy around that time. I don't know who Josh Richmond is, to be honest with you. Um, I have looked up some Cobra locations. The supermarket in the first scene, I believe, is still there. Now, it might be a different supermarket. I did reach out to the supermarket killer. Something Williams is his last name because my friend Jade, a comic, she was in a Progressive commercial with him. He's pretty funny in it. He still looks a little. He's got gray hair now, but he look. You definitely know if you've seen the movie Cobra and you're watching TV and the commercial pops up, you're like, oh my god, that's one of the bad guys from Cobra. And I think a lot of Cobra was filmed in Venice, around the Gold's Gym area. So I know there is a YouTube channel that does do uh, videos like I did for the Back for More um, video, but this guy's a lot more technologically savvy than me, so he'll actually pull up a clip from Cobra and then show you that location. So okay. And 21 I've seen 21 Jump Street, but there's not many clubs to promote. Who's Jake playing with these days? I think he's just kind of chilling in Vegas. He did his band Red Dragon Cartel, which I was at the debut of the band at the Whiskey, and he played great. Singer was a little rough. Darren something from Canada. He just, I mean, I'm assuming the budget wasn't great for a tour, so I'm sure he got pretty much anyone who'd worked on the cheap. And I remember when they were singing Rock and Roll Rebel, which is a great guitar song and really showcases Jake's playing. Um, I think he was singing Rock and Roll Devil. It's like, no, it's Rock and Roll Rebel. Someone yelled out from the crowd. um, I mean, he looks back then. He looked a little rough. All kinds of rumors that he might have been on meth and whatnot in the past. So he definitely had that sunken look, but he still played great. So and I think they released an album. It was pretty good, but I'm sure a lot of my friends who are in '80s bands, they either move to Nashville for session work or they go to Vegas. So, because there's just a lot of work in Vegas and there's a lot of session work as well. I think Nashville, there's more, but I believe, and there's also no state income tax in Vegas, which is a huge, huge deal. That's why, ironically enough, most pro athletes try and play. Even hockey players want to play in Vegas. I mean, obviously, they're the champions. So, they're a good team, but like there's no state income tax, so that's why like hockey players don't mind playing in a non-traditional market like Florida, Miami, basically where the Panthers play, Tampa Bay, um, Texas, Dallas Stars. Um, those are probably the premier destinations for hockey players. Now, lucky enough, all teams in those locations are good. So you get the best of both worlds. Like if you play in, Los Angeles, if you're say Kopitar or Dowdy, and I think they make about 10 or $11 million. In Vegas, that's a legit 10 or $11 million. But in Los Angeles, the state income tax is crazy. It's probably they probably take home, I would guess, $5 to $6 million once you pay your manager and agents and the taxes and just the sales tax here is, I think it's like 9% or something crazy. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I saw the first 21 Jump Street uh, movie. I didn't really, it was all right. I mean, I had this conversation the other day, Ross, with who were the best Aussie guitar players, and it's really all personal taste. It's like arguing who the best James Bond is. I like Roger Moore. Uh, I had a girl I was dating. She was in love with Daniel Craig, so we showed each other. I showed her a Roger Moore movie. She didn't like it. I showed her Moonraker, which is kind of over the top, even for the Roger Moore era. But I love the bad guy Hugo Drax and Jaws. Any James Bond with Jaws, I'm a fan of. And she showed me a Daniel Craig movie, and I was bored because it's just like it's good acting and stuff, and I like the more cartoonish shit. So with Aussie guitar players, obviously Randy Rhoads was great, so he's probably number one. But here's the funny thing: is well, it's not funny, but if he would have lived, he was about to leave the band. He didn't like playing that kind of music, really. He's classically, you know, he was like Zappa type music. But so I would say I would go Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee, Zach Wild, Brad Gillis, who I loved in Ozzy, even though it was just for a few months, and then Joe Holmes. A lot of people kind of don't remember the Joe, and I guess Gus G. Um, People kind of forget the Joe Holmes era of Ozzy. He was like the guy in the mid '90s. But I love if you ever want to see a different side of Brad Gillis other than Night Ranger, if you look up "Speak of the Devil" live on YouTube, and I think that I don't know if the full concert's out or you have to go to each individual song. Like if you want to hear Brad Gillis do "Suicide Solution," you have to go Brad Gillis "Suicide Solution," "Speak of the Devil," and it's if you remember, the timing around Randy Rhoads dying, like Sharon Osbourne did not want him to stop doing the road. I think she thought, a shout out to Jordan the Lion, the man is in the room, the man is in the chat. Um, but if you remember, when Randy Rhoads died, they had initially, I think the guy from Whitesnake, Bernie Torme, I think was his name, and he was like a great guitar player, but he was like a hippy dippy guy, and it didn't really fit what Ozzy uh, was trying to do. Um, he was not playing like Randy Rhoads, so they then reached out to Brad Gillis, who literally had like a week to learn the set list, which was all Tony Iommi and Randy Rhoads. So, that had to be pretty intimidating. Even if you're a high level guitar player like Brad Gillis, you got to learn the Black Sabbath stuff and play it religiously like Tony Iommi did. You got to learn the Randy Rhoads stuff, which was, fairly complex. Um, and I think, he did the audition and then he had like 3 days to learn the set list. And so he killed it, like based on those circumstances. So this would be my favorite Aussie guitar players. But yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, yeah, that's weird about the amp company giving them a deal, but I think he's like the guitar version of me. I just think he got so bitter with the business, and you imagine your first time, your first big break, you're playing with Ozzy, you basically revive his career with Bark of the Moon and Shot in the Dark and Lightning Strikes, and like he really carried Ozzy through that mid '80s time frame, and he was making no money. Um, and I think he had a bad experience with Badlands, and just became a recluse, which is too bad because he should be a lot more known than he is. But my favorite Ozzy album, I do like the Ultimate Sin as well, but I don't think a lot of hardcore Aussie fans they think it's a little too glossy because Ron Nevison was the producer of it, and he had engineered Heart's Comeback. He did the Kiss album Crazy Nights, which most Kiss fans don't like, because it's got the keyboards and so this kind of Ultimate Sin is like Ozzy's Crazy Nights, but I love Lightning Strikes and um, some of the other songs, but Chris Holmes, Jordan. No, I'm talking about Joe Holmes, who was like a Randy Rhodes, I believe, a Randy Rhodes student, if you believe folklore. And yes, I'm sure Ozzy was out on the road to make sharing money. Yeah, I mean, I met Chris. I actually snuck Chris Holmes in the Motorhead one time, Long Beach Arena. I believe it was Iron Maiden, Dio, and Motorhead. And this is when I was dating Shelley, who was the co-manager of Motorhead, and I believe to this day with Todd Singerman. And Chris Holmes was like trying to sneak backstage, and I had an all-access pass on. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get you back there, dude." So he gave me his hot dog. Now, if you think I was going to eat a hot dog that Chris Holmes was munching on, negatory, brother. Um, Sharon, have you ever met Ozzy? I've been to Ozzy's home, Ben. It was for his daughter Amy's 18th birthday of some really insane house in Malibu, and they had rented a barge and they put it in the ocean. They did a fireworks display that probably cost 100 grand. And I'm walking around, and it's a nice. It's not a giant house in terms of the size, but it's literally right on the beach. And Ozzy comes down the stairs, and he just opens up the refrigerator, grabs literally 5 or 6 Pepsis, looks up at me and goes, "Hello," and then just went back upstairs. Um, yeah, R.I.P. Lemmy Dominic. He was a good man. I do have a Chris Holmes. Well, yeah, you just heard the Chris Holmes story. Yeah, that was sad to see him in the pool with his mom. Yeah, that hot dog could probably. I mean, you know. And I have another Chris Holmes story. He got me into Rat at the Key Club, which used to be Gazzari's. It was Rat's. What was it? It was their concert for their new album in 2010, Infestation, and he was loitering outside, and he said he'd give me a ticket if I bought him a drink inside. So, Chris Holmes, sad state. But he got bitter on the music industry too. Do I think Jakey Lee will ever tour again, or Ozzy? Uh, yeah, I mean Chris Holmes is, he's a great guitar player in his own right. I think he lives in Finland. Um, yeah, he was married to Lita Ford. Oh, do I think Ozzy will ever tour again? I don't. I just don't think he's capable. From what I understand, he's not exactly in tip-top shape. So, who knows though? I mean, they could juice him up with whatever and, uh, you know, give him some Thorazine and Lamictal and give him the Brody Stevens cocktail and put a teleprompter every 3 feet on stage. But I don't want to see that. You know, I mean, I don't want to see. I mean, at least with Rob Halford and Judas Priest, he's still pretty competent. But I don't really want to see a frail Ozzy Osbourne having to see a teleprompter. I mean, it's basically you're paying hundreds of dollars to see karaoke. Um, yeah, I saw Ozzy. I think the first time I saw him was in '91 on the No More Tears tour, and then it's a good show. I'm trying to think who was in his band. I think it was Michael Inez on bass, and Wild on guitar, and Randy Castillo on drums. And then I saw him, I believe, on the Osmosis tour. I think Michael Inez was still on bass, Joe Holmes on guitar, and I want to say it was Mike Borden from Faith No More on drums, but I might be mistaken on that one. That was at the Forum. I want to say 95, 96. Um, and then I think it was I'm forgetting on the No More Tears tour. It was in Irvine Meadows. It was on a Sunday night, and Rob Halford was either singing. I think he was singing for Black Sabbath. I think Dio had left or something went on, and so Halford sang Priest, or I'm sorry, Halford sang Sabbath, and then Ozzy. So that was kind of cool to see. One of the more memorable concerts. Chris Holmes was married to Lita Ford. Yes, I mean Lita Ford. Like I met her once because I'm friends with her drummer Bobby Rock. As many of you know, ex drummer from the Vinnie Vincent Invasion and Nelson. And if you really want to hear a classic interview of Inappropriate Earl, go to the Bobby Rock episode. I forget the episode number, but because he's not really abused his brain with drugs and booze, his memory is pretty impressive. And we talked about the recording of the first two Vinnie Vincent albums, and it was really fun to hear him talk about it because he remembers so much. Yeah, I forget the episode. It was one of the earlier ones. It might have been one of the first 100. It doesn't really help you, but I mean, who knows, Jordan? Who knows? I wouldn't put anything past Ozzy. But yeah, Vinny was so fast. That's why I like the album I reviewed the other night here, the Kiss Live from Poughkeepsie with the great and deceased Mark St. John. Um, who I was watching some YouTube video. I think it was the podcast Three Sides of the Coin. I want to give them credit. They were interviewing Mark St. John's, I guess, best friend from back in the day, and he said that Mark St. John was up for the Ozzy role that basically Jake E. Lee got. So it would, there was so much influx in the '80s. I mean, if you look and see if Mark St. John got the Jake E. Lee role and Ozzy, who knows what his career would have been like? And then maybe Jake E. Lee ends up in Kiss. That would have been a fun collaboration because I think Jake would have worked well with Kiss because he's a good songwriter. I don't know if Mark St. John could write. Um, I mean, I listened to White Tiger and I listened to his solo album he released. I mean, it was okay. No, we're not talking wrestling tonight. I mean, I'm not saying we can't, but yeah, I know Sharon's pretty greedy. Sharon's like a female Gene Simmons. Where do you work, Anthony? I did not have a chance to watch AEW last night. I know Chris Jericho wrestled tonight in Japan, or today in Japan, and well, I'm sure she made the money. So oh, thank you, Anthony. I mean, you could probably ask Jakey Lee what he thinks about Sharon. Uh, yeah, it's here in Perth, and, okay. I mean, I don't watch WWE. Oh, is that where you work? Oh, wow. I drove by there the other night. I met Paul Stanley there, probably 20 years. I think he, at least used to live somewhere around that newsstand on, Laurel Canyon in Ventura. There was also one, Van Nuys in Ventura. I met him, I think I met Gene there once. Not sure where Gene lives, but, when I drove by that one on Laurel in Ventura the other night, it was closed, so I didn't know if it was still open. But man, it was cold. I mean, I remember some nights when I would do comedy at the Sportsman's Lodge and I would take Laurel Canyon home. Uh, I felt bad for the guy working there because this is at the time when newsstands were still kind of relevant. And so I think it was a 24-hour newsstand. And my God, it was cold back then. No, I would not perform at the gathering of the Juggalos if I were invited. I've never been a big Insane Clown Posse uh, fan. Nothing against them. I don't know. They never really did it for me. Um, and I will say, I think Shaggy Two Dope was at the Comedy Store the other night. I think he got kicked out because he was so drunk. But that guy's lived a full life. I mean, I'm at the point now with my stand up where I just want to do stand up to stand up crowds. I don't want any wacky bar gigs. I don't want, I'm done battling. I'm 23 plus years into stand up, and I am spoiled playing at the Comedy Store every night. Um, I mean, I would do comedy at a wrestling convention if it was like set up where the convention's in the daytime and there's a comedy show at night. I would do something like that, but I'm done like opening for bands and stuff like that. Like last night, I'm at the Comedy Store on a Saturday night. There's 300 or 400 people in the room. That's I'm spoiled. It's hard to go back to bar gigs and wacky music gigs, and um, you know, it's just not for me. What do you mean, ICP? Yeah, I mean, I just wasn't a fan. Yeah, they didn't really do much in WCW. Well, I mean, I understand though. Like, I definitely paid my dues in stand up, but now I'm kind of paying my dues in YouTube. Like I'm a little behind the ball on the streaming. Uh, you know, yeah, but I'm trying, to catch up. Um, you know, I'm trying to figure out the algorithms and whatnot. I mean, I thought Sunday night. I'm just curious on a Sunday night how many people would join in on this, and I'm still got to find a better way to promote it. Like send out a tweet maybe an hour before. Hey, I'll be on YouTube Live right now. Um, I'm sure I will figure out how to do this and do it better. I mean, really, the reason I'm doing it so much is not to get to the super chat money, uh, you know, level, but just to maybe build up my online presence so people want to see me do stand up. You should tell that. Yeah, I don't really want to do Kill Tony. I've done it 5 times. It's just not for me. I certainly understand why the show is popular, but uh, it's just not. I don't think you can accurately do comedy in 1 minute and then to have established comics shit on you. Like, it's not for me. Um, Nothing against the show. It's just, because when I was on the show, I mean, I think I was on the show twice as the Iron Patriot, and then I was on the show 3 times as a panelist. And to be honest with you, I was never that funny as a panelist because I was actually trying to get advice. Like, hey, you should do this for that punchline. And I don't think the crowd really want to hear that. They want to hear me roast some open micer that I don't know, and it's just like, you know, I'll roast Jimmy Carr because I respect him so much as a comic or whoever, but I'm not gonna roast some comic who's a year in. That's like batting practice. It's not appealing to me. I mean, I'm sure they are. Um, what do you mean do it on my commentary tab? I don't even know what that means, Jordan. Uh, yeah, but I don't think so. I mean, Joe's asked me to be on his podcast. I just fumbled the execution. So, oh, thank you, Spurg. Well, I mean, I watched a little bit of Ric Flair on Kill Tony, and it just was like they're goofing on a wrestling legend. And it just like it wasn't fun for me to watch that. Now, a lot of people have said, "Well, dude, you were on his roast. You weren't goofing on him." But I was also paying tribute to him at the end, like saying, "Hey, you're the greatest wrestler of all time. It's an honor." Blah blah blah. That was just taking pot shots at a guy who's like loaded. So I don't, I just didn't like that. And oh no, I mean, I'm not trying to get anyone to not like Kill Tony. Um, I think what really turned me off on the show was I don't know if it was at Skankfest or something, and there was like 5 established comics shitting all over this heavy set open micer, and it was just like, does it really take 5 of you to tear this girl down? Like, and she was kind of funny. Like she was bombing, no doubt about it, because she wasn't near on the comedy level of those 5 guys. But it was just like, I don't know. It's like, okay, I think this is my um, cue. Show will go on. What is Johnny? I don't know what you mean, Lewis. Am I missing out on a question? Let me know. It is Sunday night. I am a smidge tired. I might do an AEW Collision recap tomorrow. I have to watch it tonight. Oh, Louis J. Gomez. Oh, I think uh, it might have been Lewis, Big J, Dave Smith, Tony, and I think one other person. And I don't know. It was just like 5 established comics beating up on this girl. Now, in their defense, she signed up for the show, so she knew, uh, what she was getting herself into. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like it. Jeremiah Watkins should have you guest on his podcast. I'd love to be on Harlan Williams' podcast. I mean, I think Jeremiah is too busy booking the Brendan Schaubs of the world. So, you know, I did his podcast when he couldn't get big guests on. Yeah. Oh no, Big J is good, and Lewis is great, and Dave Smith is great. But just like I don't know, it's just something about that rubbed me the wrong way, and the crowd was loving it. But I did like how the girl was fighting back. Um, yeah, yeah. Well, it's just hard to get on Beach Cops because just figuring out 4 guys' schedules. I don't know what DeWitt does, but Jeff has 2 kids. O'Neill's on the road right now with Ari and Renazizi. But we will. I know the fans love it, and I love all those guys. So until then, I'm just trying to pump up the streams on YouTube and find other topics to talk about because I know the AEW talk. It's a limited audience. Um, I mean, I'm single, so you know, I don't. I don't think I want kids. I don't think I want to be a dad at 55. Because if I got a girl pregnant tomorrow, she wouldn't have the kid till I was 56. and I can't imagine having a 14-year-old kid and me being 70. So, I I think you can be, alone but not lonely. So we'll see. I think I'm a great uncle is what I say. Tony Khan is a real natural. Oh my god, he is awful on camera, Tony Khan. He just he's got that look, like Cindy Brady did on that one episode of the Brady Bunch where she's literally staring into the camera. This is how Tony Khan looks when he's looking into the camera. And we've got Sting and Adam Copeland and, Darby Allin. But hey, when you're a billionaire, doesn't matter how you look on camera. Yeah, total deer in the headlights. Have you been following? Yes, I'm a Kings fan, so I watch every King game. You know, when they have an off night from time to time, Carl Grunstrom, Adrian Kempe, Matt Roy come to the Comedy Store. Last night, ex Kings Cal Peterson and Sean Walker beat the Kings as they now both play for the Flyers. So that was a kind of a tough game because I know Cal a little bit. It was kind of I didn't know who to root for last night. I mean, I guess I was rooting for the Kings, but um, you know they did not win. So I saw a few of them at the football game today at the Charger game. So I think they're surviving. But good. It's a weird hockey season so far. You've got the Edmonton Oilers. I think they just fired their coach. They're 3-8-1. Um, the Kings are doing, I think, pretty good. Kraken are kind of falling back a little bit. Um, there's Columbus is not having a good season. You gotta wonder how much longer Patrick Laine all want to play there. Where's Jack Tunney? Is that the old guy from the WWE? What happened? What happened to Mrs. Daddy Man? Um, I'm assuming you're talking about who are you talking about? Let me put their name in chat. I don't, but Kong. Well, Khan, I thought he had a good figurehead with Steven Regal, and I'm not sure why he went back to WWE because I thought he was a good mentor for the younger wrestlers, and he has their respect. But who knows what happened there? But I think he definitely needs another ear to bounce ideas off of. But they might already have that person. Like I do like the Devil storyline. I do think they have opened the door for it to be any number of people, which creates people talking about it. Some people think it's Britt Baker, which I think it is because they are very slender build. But I noticed that not last night, but when Bowens was thrown through the window, the guy who threw him through the window was a pretty jacked dude. So that might be Mustafa Ali, might be Dolph Ziggler. Uh, I've heard certain prognosticators where people think it's Kyle O'Reilly, not the devil, but like, so it's going to be a double reveal, of not just who the devil is, but who their helpers are. I'm assuming that's going to be done at Full Gear, but who knows? I do still have my dog Lois. Um, thought of a reality show where you and O'Neill go on the road doing comedy, looking for Boone's last shopping cart. That show could probably get on the air, to be honest with you. Um, someone showed up last night at the comedy store with an RIP Bushman T-shirt. I took a picture of the guy, Stagwar Chandler. I had a feeling that's who you were talking about. I just wanted to double check. We have not talked in a year and a half. she has blocked me on all social media. So, uh, what can I do? Um, I did reach out to her after our mutual friend Jack Knight committed suicide, and she did not get back to me. So, that's the status of that. Um, well, I think, you know, it's important though. Like I hear a lot of the people in this era, like Sanjay Dutt and Jeff Jarrett, and obviously Jeff Jarrett's dad, Jerry, like a fantastic wrestling mind. But I think it's important for Tony Khan to have someone. I'm not saying like me, but you know, I'm a fan, but I'm also a smart fan. Like I'm not going to go in there and say, "Hey, you should make Sting the champion," even though Sting's my favorite wrestler. Wouldn't really make sense to have a 64-year-old champion. But I do think, you know, he needs someone who's not going to kiss his ass. He needs someone who's going to be like, you know what, this is what the fans want. Now you can't give the fans everything they want, but um, you know, did she go out for milk one day and never come back? Basically, um, but I can't get into the details on an internet chat. Yeah, I mean, the Knights look good. The Rangers are looking good. LaFerriere's played good for the Rangers. The Bruins, I think they lost 7 guys off their roster, and I saw a lot of prognosticators uh, saying the Bruins aren't going to make the playoffs, but they've found a way to. Some teams are like that. Tampa Bay is really the same. They're contending every year, and even though they always lose 2 or 3 key players, it seems like you know. Um, but and some teams aren't. So. Well, I think though you have guys with agendas who are just going to tell Tony Khan whatever he wants to hear. I wouldn't mind taking a stab at being a manager. I think I'd be good, and it'd be a great way to build up a huge following. Like, can you imagine me and Don Callis basically doing a roast battle? It'd be go viral. Oh, it's all good. I have nothing bad to say about her. Excuse me, to be honest with you. Um, I mean, she's awesome, but the pandemic was a doozy for us, So I just think it made us both crazy. Um, and then we had obviously I'm not going to get into it on a chat room, but we had issues, but like they were solvable. Uh, yeah, I mean, um, I think someone sent me one of her TikTok videos about me after the breakup that did not paint me in a favorable light. But I wasn't going to go back and forth on TikTok. So I love Jay White, but well, I think Jay White's better off on his own. Like I don't, he's great on the stick. He doesn't need a faction. He doesn't need a manager. I think Juice Robinson is great. I think the Guns are great, but I don't. I just think Jay White's. Jay White's like MJF. He doesn't need a faction. I thought they were talking about Matthew Perry, Chandler from Friends. No, we were not talking about Chandler from Friends. Um, yeah, I mean, well, it wasn't really. Yeah, I don't think anything like that was going to happen between us, William. But she just ducked out. Haven't seen her since. I've never met Sting. I was excited because when I signed on, I heard he was going to be on the dais, but he did a video package instead, much like the guy from Sal from Impractical Jokers. I think The Rock and a few others did video tributes. Uh, I mean, that's one thing that she can't say. Uh, but you know, I mean, she's all. I mean, like I really have nothing bad to say about her. So hell, give her a follow. Just don't tell her I told you. She'll probably block you too. Um, but I don't really, because I know some exes they talk bad about each other, and you know, it's never it serves really no purpose. You might feel good the very second you're saying whatever you're saying, but um, 2 minutes later you'll feel even worse than you did before. I don't know if I did. I did not stag war. I think when I was a kid, I watched a lot of NWA. Watched a lot of world class championship wrestling with Colonel De Beers. They had some great guys. And Ultimate Warrior was, I think, there first as the Dingo Warrior. Um, no, I don't think that would go over too well. Well, it's a tough business. When you're two comics dating one another. In some ways, you think that two comics are the perfect to date each other because you get the business, the heartaches, the good days, the good nights, the bad days, the bad nights, the good sets, the bad sets. I think what was good with us was she wasn't necessarily a stand-up. She did more improv, like UCB, Groundlings type stuff. So the two worlds are totally different. So but yeah, I mean that's I guess I don't really have much else to say. Um, I think certain chicks love drama. The girlfriends I had before Chandler loved drama and still does. Um, but the one good thing about me in the Los Angeles comedy scene is I'm very well liked. So now there might be people who don't like my stand up. That's fine. But I will say that in terms of my reputation, I'm almost impenetrable in terms of bad mouthing me. Uh, Stan, that's deep cut, Skandar Akbar. Uh, so, like, the very few people who've talked poorly about me, one, I hear about it like that, and then two, it's like, um, they're like, yeah, we know that's not true. Like, I had an ex telling people I hit her, and it was just like people will call me up, go, hey, just so you know, so and so saying you hit her, and they're like, but you know, we know that's not true. I didn't even have to have a story. It was just like my story on that was like, no, didn't happen. So, you know, well, yeah, I am the dingo comic. Well, I just love those early mid '80s, or not early mid '80s. You had like Gino Hernandez, you had Iceman King Parsons, Colonel De Beers, Skandar Akbar. Kamala, before they turned him into a cartoon, he was fucking scary, man. I mean, you had people who thought Kamala was really from Africa and was going to jump in the crowd and eat somebody. Because this is kind of before kayfabe was truly, truly broken. Um, so, they had some fantastic characters. Obviously, the Von Erichs. Maybe I'll do a review of the Von Erich movie. I don't know how I didn't get the Gary Hart role in that. But I don't believe Gary Hart had a big role in that movie. Um, no, no, I've never. Wait, yeah. Have I ever ridden an ATV before? No, I don't think I have. I've ridden a golf cart very dangerously on the hills of Bel Air Country Club. Bel Air Country Club is not a difficult golf course if you are a good golfer, but uh, it's very hilly, and so I would, um, I was a pretty good golfer for someone who like wasn't professionally trained, but it was half the fun was driving the golf carts. Like the eighth hole, um, the tee in the eighth hole of Bel Air. It's been like 25 years since I've played this course. Is very high up on not a mountain, but a hillside, and it's hidden. It's like you're on a tee box, but you're surrounded by the jungle, and so like this is the tee, the cart path is right here. So after you hit your shot, you go on the cart path, you go this way and down a really steep hill. So you can get some momentum, and then the next hill is up, and then you go downhill steadily. So I ripped it up a few times. Um, so I've never seen somebody rocking. What's Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch a Sly documentary too. Oh, thank you, Anthony. Uh, I will be releasing a new 46-minute set I did in the main room a couple weeks ago. I'm just editing out one word from it because I don't want to. I've worked so hard to get this streaming shit up and running that I hear if you say a word that rhymes with bag. I do a Michael Jackson joke. I'll tell you the joke, but I won't say the word. I'm like, hey, we all remember Michael Jackson, right? The crowd, yeah. It's one thing to be a pedophile, but a bag too. Uh, or if you're a Kevin Brennan fan, hey, we all remember Michael Jackson, right? Well, it's one thing to be a pedophile, but a piazza too? Hello. So I got to take that word out so I don't get like, um, I don't not banned, but I don't know. Whatever they do on YouTube. I think part of the thing I was told on TikTok Live, trolls like to get your live stream struck. And I was on TikTok Live. Last two TikTok Lives I did, I got suspended for a week. And I said nothing wrong. I didn't say anything sexual. I didn't say anything racist or homophobic or anything like that. And I think a troll just reported my chat or however they do it. And I was like, fuck this. I mean, I understand if I actually said it, yeah, you pay the crime for the time. Or you do the time for the crime. But I was like, I think I'm just gonna try and build up my YouTube channel as best I can. Um, yeah, I can't wait to watch the Sly documentary. I want to watch the Iron Claw, the Von Erich movie. I think that's out. I want to say November 23rd. Um, well, if you want to hear me say those things, just call me on the phone. Hello. Um, well, I think, yeah, I mean, because I really like. I got Chandler. I think she's banned from TikTok Live forever because of me. Because one night we were walking in the pandemic, and I forget why she gave me the phone, but she was like, "Yeah, my boyfriend's a comic at the comedy store, and blah blah blah." And, hey, Earl, why don't you tell him a comedy store story? And of course, I told him about the double blowjob scene with Ari Shafir and Dan Madonia, and I guess she got a no. I guess TikTok Live, you get one strike, you're done permanently. So that might have been one of the problems in our relationship. But I did tell her in my defense, you did tell a comedy store story. Not a lot of clean ones. Um, see, that doesn't sound like. And the DMCA seems the fastest way to strike. Dude, I don't know what that means, Johnny. Try, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not very good on TikTok anyway, so I do post stand-up videos from time to time on there, so I don't mind that. Uh, what wrestler should be on the next dark side of the ring? I gave them a perfect. I wouldn't say I'm friends with the producer. I think Evan. I DM with from time to time. I think I told him Kamala. I think I told him, and I said if you don't want to do a standalone episode on Kamala, you could do racism in wrestling. I think Nails, it would be a good one. He's the one who basically stormed into Vince McMahon's office and beat the shit out of him because he didn't get paid or something. I gave them a list, a long list of. Trying to think. I mean, they already did Adrian Adonis. They did Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, they've never really done one on Pat Patterson. And obviously we know what that episode would be about. They've never really done one standalone on Hulk Hogan, I think. Uh, I mean, really, and this could be with the racism in wrestling. Was it Colonel De Beers or someone in World Class Championship Wrestling who had an angle where they wouldn't wrestle black wrestlers or have a black referee? I think it was Colonel De Beers. It might have been someone else. Did he have a partner, Colonel De Beers, or something? I'm not. It's been a hot because World Class Championship Wrestling used to be on ESPN2 in the afternoon, so I really got to revisit some of those crazy storylines. Um, well, it would be. I mean, I think a Hulk Hogan one. You could. I mean, yeah, pretty much everything has been said, but still, he is probably the most well known wrestler of all time. Um, I mean, even kids today know who Hulk Hogan is. Where when you fast forward in 30 years and you say the name John Cena, I don't know if young kids will know who John Cena is. Yes, they did do one on Dino Bravo. That was very. Um, I mean, there's so many. Louis Spicoli would be a good one. He was like a fan who became a wrestler and then he died. Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, the Billy and Chuck story angle, that would be. I mean, I don't know if you could do a whole hour on it, but I do think it would be good. Yeah, but there was someone in World Class Championship Wrestling, and let me. I hate doing this while I'm on the air. Let me look up racist. Uh, Let me see. There we go. Racist. Now people are texting me. Um, Angle World Class Championship Wrestling. Sorry about this, guys. Document. Let me see. Something a document in the history of racism in pro wrestling. So we'll see if this what pops up here. I don't like reading when I'm online, but I something really trying to think. Piper's. I'm trying to think. I mean, the Freebirds were pretty racist. I'm trying to think. Well, I'll try and find it. I mean, of course, I remember when Ric Flair called Tony Atlas boy in a promo. Like that does not. And I think Jerry Lawler said the F word when he was talking about someone. I mean, there were some. Oh boy, here's one. Here's a quote from Big Van Vader, and Harley Race was his manager. And this is a promo he cut on Ron Simmons. Let me tell you something, Mr. Simmons. 7 different times I was world heavyweight champion, and I had a boy like you carrying my bags. Yeah, that does not. Um, and then let's see. I mean, there's Freebird Michael Hayes got a promo against Junichiro Tenryu, who was Dusty Rhodes as the World Warriors partner when they held the NWA six-man tag champs. And on an early edition of NWA World Championship Wrestling, the Saturday evening wrestling show, uh, Michael Hayes apparently said, "I'd love to slap a Jap." Jesus, I channel struck, but Bill Watts. Well, I can't even read that. I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, I want to read that, but I don't want to get my channel struck. But if someone can remind me the world class championship wrestling, I almost I'm gonna look up Colonel De Beers. I hate doing this while I'm online, but you guys are cool. I see we've lost a few listeners, so maybe it's time to end the chat anyway. Uh, um, let me see. I'm looking up Colonel De Beers. Nothing to looking up his Wikipedia, early career, later career. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me see. De Beers. Maybe it was in. Let's see. During the 1990s, De Beers promoted the Aryan nations. Uh, I'll figure it out. I don't want to. You got. Yeah, Tony was well, you could tell when Ric Flair called Tony Atlas boy, like, either Tony Atlas was a great actor or he was pretty pissed. You could see like Tony Atlas kind of go like this and take his shirt off and go, "Hey, motherfucker, like I'm right here." Hulk Hogan absolutely was the worst actor. Hayes was, you know, I mean, for God's sakes, they came to the ring in a Confederate flag. Um, I don't think so. I mean, when you think about the mid '80s and uh, you know racism, I mean, look how mostly black wrestlers were portrayed back then. Um, Junkyard Dog, going to the ring in a dog collar. Kamala was a buffoon. Slick was a jive talking pimp. You know, Coco Beware was like, come on. Um, Sadly, I don't think they were at work, to be honest with you. Shaq versus Dennis Rodman. I mean, Shaq was pretty good in Blue Chips. That's really the only thing I've seen of his. By the way, this is totally unrelated to anything, but it hit me. I saw The Godfather marathon the other night on television, and I had never seen a Godfather movie. So yesterday, I watched The Godfather for the very first time. I really enjoyed it. It's a 3-hour movie, but the acting is so good, it goes by like that. And today I've watched a little bit of Godfather 2, and a pleasant surprise that the great one of my favorite, maybe my favorite character actor, G.D. Spradlin, the coach from One on One with Robbie Benson, and of course, I've mentioned it a few times, the coach in North Dallas 40. He plays the very corrupt Senator Pat Geary. So I'm about an hour into that. And the pageantry of some of these, like the wedding scenes, is really mind blowing. But let's get back to racism. Um, the first one's really good. I mean, it's such an amazing cast: Pacino, Brando, James Caan, and just a list of character actors that you go, oh, I remember this guy. And I think in the second one, there's this guy who's in a few early scenes with I think Pacino and. I said, God, this guy looks really familiar. And it's Johnny Two Times from Goodfellas. I got to get the papers. Um, yeah, I've never seen a Matrix movie. I've never seen one episode of The Sopranos. Um, I know. I mean, that's crazy, William. Yeah, I mean, look at the Dukes of Hazzard, a major show, probably the number one show on television for a minute, and the Confederate flag was heavily featured on that show. Um, so, oh, here we go. Hold on, I got people. Yeah, that is a racist angle. Someone just sent me Lee Singleton sent me a photo of a I don't know what league this guy was in, but the stormtrooper walking out to the ring in some swastika uh, paraphernalia. Although I do remember in early XPW days, the ring announcer at the local shows dressed up in a Nazi outfit and did the goose step to the ring. But that's XPW. I'm talking more of um, mainstream wrestling. Um, because XPW back in the day also had a tag team called the West Side, you know, the N word, and it was spelled out. And they had merch. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why don't you have a T-shirt? First of all, I would never wear a shirt that said that word on it. Second of all, they were out of my size. Hello. I did watch The Wire, and it's weird. I watched the first season. I couldn't even get through it, and then I don't know. So many people were telling me to revisit it that I was like, okay. And I watched all 5 seasons in like 2 weeks. I just literally would stay up for 12 hours and watch a season. Um, I think my favorite season was season 3. Although I'm one of if you poll the fans, I think their least favorite season would be season 2 with the Docs. Um, but that was probably my second favorite season. But I'm a big fan of Senator Clay Davis. You talking about money laundering in West Baltimore? Shit. I tried to buy one of those bobbleheads that said that, but they were sold out. Cool movie about the true story of races. That kind of was over. Yeah, I mean, I just recently taped. I've never seen American History X, so I'm gonna check that out after I finish Godfather 2. Um, and then I think there was a Godfather 3, right? I'll check that out. Um, but I was, yeah, I mean, I liked. Well, it's funny. I live in West Hollywood, and I don't know the actor Chris Bauer, who was the main bad guy, I think, in the Doc season. I would always see him at the gym. And he was a nice guy. He was like a pretty in-demand character actor. So, oh, that's cool, William. I didn't know that. Oh, that would explain your late night hours. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed The Wire very much. I'm, obviously a Miami Vice man. Crime Story is a great show. Well, it's great actors. I mean, uh, Edward Furlong was a really good actor. Lost his mind, but I remember seeing him once where I got my Jap. There was a pet store in the Beverly Center, and that's where I got a lot of my dogs from. Before I knew that you shouldn't get dogs at pet stores, I just felt sorry for them. So I'd buy one. I'd buy the one. I'd be like, "What dog's been here the longest?" I'd say, "I'll take that one." And I used to see him at that pet store, and he was always with a group of like young, you could tell hanger on type friends, and they were just pet dogs. You could tell they were just lost souls. Uh, yeah, I mean, I liked Chris Bauer. I'm trying to think of the name of the show on ESPN. This is when poker was big with rounders. I think it was called Tilt with Michael Madsen, Chris Bauer. I think the guy Eddie Cibrian or Syrian, and it was about gambling at a casino. I'll watch anything with Michael Madsen. He's a great go-to character actor for me. Um, he was in the Chris Bauer was in that, and he's in a lot of things. He's like the new version of Gene Hackman, I guess. He's always good in whatever he's in. Gene Hackman's 90, man. I'm gonna be sad when he dies. 'Cause he was like in so many good movies. Side and Adventure, French Connections 1 and 2. My favorite war movie, Uncommon Valor. Um, yeah, and here's the funny thing is, John. Well, maybe you don't know because I don't know when you were a fan of mine or are a fan of mine when you came on board, but I love the TV show The White Shadow. It was really one of my first comedy influences. Um, and it wasn't necessarily a comedy. It was um, like a drama with comedy in it. because they tackled some real heavy subject matter for that. You know, it was on CBS from I think '79 to '81, 3 seasons, and the seasons were long. Like each season was like 26, 27 episodes. You know, nowadays it's TV seasons like 10 episodes, uh, but uh, you know, it was done in a comic way, and it was a fantastic cast. And a lot of the cast went on to be big directors and producers. And I think Timothy Van Patten, who played the great Salami, you know, the dopey Italian kid in The White Shadow, he ended up producing a lot of episodes of The Sopranos, and I think most, if not all, of the episodes of Boardwalk Empire. I mean, you know, listen, they could do a white version of What's Happening. Go, say what? Crimson Tide was good. I mean, he's never. I can't. It's Hoosiers. You know, I mean, even when he was a little older, that movie he did with Will Smith. What was that called? You know, the spy movie with John Boyd as the bad guy, Enemy of the State. Um, I mean, you could put Gene Hackman in Porky's 5, and he would be good. I don't think I ever saw that show, Stingray. Sounds like a Dan Michael Vincent show. Um, but yeah, Heist was good. I mean, even the bad movies he's been in, he was the best part. Um, and you know, The Firm, he was great as a bad guy. I think it was that Clint Eastwood movie where you know, Gene Hackman assaulted that girl, and Clint Eastwood was in the bank vault watching it. He was great in that. It's but I think he retired from acting. What's up? What's up, Jason Bards? I'm about to end this. Jason Bardo. Sorry, I called you Jason Bards. Uh, yeah, Nick Mancuso. He was like the go-to character guy for a while, along with like Joe Cortese. And I would have, if my comedy career ever doesn't flame out, which it might, I would love to be a casting director. Like, you know, I just love because you know you can always pick an A-list star, but like to me, what made a movie like say Top Gun, not Maverick, but Top Gun. I mean, obviously Tom Cruise is great, but it was the character actors. Yeah, I'm trying to go live more often, brother. Get those super chat hours, baby doll. Um, but what made Top Gun was, you know, Tom Skerritt, Michael Ironside, Anthony Edwards. You know, I forget the black actor's name. He didn't have a lot of lines in the movie, but he was also the guy in Die Hard. He just died recently, I think maybe a year ago. Um, who was the computer guy who broke into the vault? Um, oh, thank you, Ross. I said earlier in this chat I will be putting up a 46-minute set from the Comedy Store main room. That will be. I just have to take out one word that rhymes with bag, and you know. No, I love Michael Ironside. I believe he was the first choice for RoboCop, but he literally could not fit into the costume. I think he was too muscular, and the budget was so little on that movie, you know, that they literally Peter Weller got the gig because he fit into the costume. It's kind of like the first Rocky movie. I think it was only like $1 million budget, and if you notice, when Rocky walks into the arena the night before the fight, um, there I think he was wearing red and white shorts in the poster, but in the title fight, he's wearing white and red shorts because they didn't have money to change the poster. You know, the banners that were hanging. So no, I wouldn't do the casting couch. You watching the Winger 17 video was a good one. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's right, when Chandler was in front of the TV. Uh, but I mean, back then, $1 million movie was like you had to make every dollar count, and like I mean, for Rocky especially, there was so little money for that movie in terms of like, I don't know where the majority of the money went. I mean, because Carl Weathers at the time, I don't think was a big actor, so but even a guy like Carl Weathers for Rocky probably got paid 50, 75 grand or whatever he got. So that's right there, 10% of the budget on one guy. I mean, and then, Burgess Meredith, he wasn't, he's like the ultimate character actor, but, he probably got paid. Good night, Anthony. Thank you for the support always. Appreciate it. But you got to figure between Carl Weathers, Burgess Meredith, Burt Young, and Talia Shire was a pretty big actress at that time. She was coming off of both Godfather movies, so you had to figure that just the budget for the main actors was probably a couple hundred grand. So that probably left literally maybe 100 to 200 grand for to rent out the boxing. I think the sports arena was the arena they used, uh, and just flying some staff to Philadelphia. Like, I mean, they I think literally used every fucking dollar of that $1 million to get Rocky. And I think the budget for RoboCop was just a few $1 million. Um, like, I don't even think they could afford to shoot in Detroit. So a lot of RoboCop uh, is filmed actually in Dallas because of the tax breaks that they received. Um, they brought in, yeah, I heard from Stevie, they brought in Troma to film a couple scenes of Rocky. I don't know what that, I'm not sure what that means, to be honest with you, Jason. Um, yeah, Mark Singer was a go-to character actor back in the day. And then I mean, I'm gonna try and do more shorts, Ross, but really the one that gets up the big, gets you to the 4,000 hours or streams. I think it's crazy the amount of hours you have to get for stream because there's three ways to get the super chat money. It's one, the subscribers, and I think I have close to 2,000 now, so I have double the subscribers that you need, which is nice. And I think I'm about 1,000 hours short of the watchable hours, which I should get if I do a couple of these streams a week. And and then you have the shorts. It's like you have to have like millions of views or hours or something that it's probably not attainable for me. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I did not know that. Well, same thing with Escape from New York. If you notice, that budget was so low that all the scenes were shot at night. I don't even think they had permits for most of the scenes. I will, Ross. I will. I'll do another. I'm too lazy to order the Ric Flair energy drink. I don't think it's in stores yet, so I'm going to wait till it's in stores. I think Vitamin Shop seems like they would have it at some point because they have some pretty rare energy drinks that I don't see in other stores. Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter, those early '80s movies he did, The Thing. I mean, I think The Thing had a pretty decent budget, um, but not RoboCop, Escape from New York was like no budget at all. Um, so, uh, you know, it's of course now movies that are low budget. I mean, so many things are special effects now. That's what I love about the early action movies. Escape from New York. It looks like you're watching a documentary because it's so realistic. Uh, I mean, Convoy. It's not an action movie per se, but um, it was like you were watching a documentary on long haul trucking because it just looks so real. I don't know if John Carpenter's a new series. I would absolutely watch it if he did. Um, and then, but nowadays, like, I mean, I really do prefer the action movies of my teen generation, Cobra and Predator and Lethal Weapon, because I try to watch the Flash I watched the other night because Michael Keaton would come back as Batman, and he's a Comedy Store paid regular, so I feel a kinship with him. Stone Cold was a good action movie. I mean, it's not. That I'll leave you guys with this because it is getting to the late. It's 9 o'clock, midnight for you East Coasters. Um, but I was watching a documentary on the strongman Tom McGee, who was in the big fight scene in Stone Cold, and it was really I forgot about Tom McGee because I mean, we weren't friends, but I knew him from Gold's Gym back in the late '80s and early '90s when I was a trainer and member there. He was always there. He's a very big dude, but if you have a chance, I think the video on YouTube is called "How Strong Is or Was Tom McGee?" And I forgot he was a wrestler as well. Like, and he does these really crazy backflips and he was 300 pounds of pure muscle. But I forgot how good he was in the strongman competitions. I think he finished second one year to like Bill Kazmaier, and um, uh, I wouldn't doubt it, William. But I kind of forgot about him until I saw the video yesterday, and I forgot about. I guess it's one of the great dark matches that very few people have seen. Is he beat Bret Hart, I guess, in a house show. So that's how like high he was um, at one point. But a lot of the strongman fans were like, he should have never have done wrestling because that took away from his attention for the strongman stuff. But he was, the few wrestling clips I've seen of him was like, man, he should have been a star. He was like a more agile Ultimate Warrior. Like he was probably taller than the Warrior, but had that same mass. And wow, he was impressive. But then the sad thing is, I guess because he lived in Mar Vista, he might still live there. And Mar Vista is kind of a weird area. It's like there's some really nice blocks, and then there's gangs. And I guess one night, six guys jumped him. It took six guys to jump him and to beat the shit out of him. And they show a picture of him, the after effects, and my God, like he's unrecognizable. I'm not trying to be funny. He literally, after the beating, looked like Sloth from the Goonies. So I'm not sure um, what he's up to today, but my God, like they kicked his teeth out, and his like eyes are falling out. I mean, it was like hard to look at. Oh, I'd like to read that interview. I mean, I can remember watching that fight scene, going, "Oh, that's the guy from Gold's Gym," but I didn't really know a lot about him. And he was pretty quiet. I recall when I would work out there. And you got to understand, I was the smallest guy at Gold's Gym by a long shot. I mean, there were some huge, like gigantic dudes and women. I mean, I remember once I saw Lou Ferrigno. Now, this is when I was working out at Powerhouse Gym, which Iron. There's another gym in Venice, Iron. Not, I don't know if it was Iron Man Gym or Iron something Gym. They were all trying to compete with Golds, and I think I was at Powerhouse, and I'll never forget seeing Lou Ferrigno walk in, puts 225 on the bench, which was my max at the time. I don't even think I could do it now. And that's what they test the football players at the combine. You know how many times you can do 225. He put 225 on as a warm up. Like that's crazy. And then he was doing 315, like what would be like doing 145. He was just going like that. It was just like no effort at all. Um, so yeah, Tom McGee, hope he's doing better. Um, I love Lance Henriksen. He was the original choice for the Terminator, and there are some rare clips of him in the Terminator outfit. But and then OJ was considered, and the casting director literally said, "I don't find him believable as a killer." Hello. Yeah, I don't know if Lex was, or I don't know if Lou was natural. I don't know about that. But yeah, I mean, Tom McGee, they showed video of him like squatting like 800 pounds. Like there's one video of him where he's squatting something crazy like 800 pounds, and his nose starts to bleed. Uh, So that's about it, guys, for tonight. By the way, Brian Bosworth is in a college football commercial. It's about I forget. It shows a bunch of college football fans freaking out because their team is losing, and then Brian Bosworth walks in, and he looks obviously he's a lot smaller, but kind of looks completely different, but facially kind of the same. Shout out to the Boz. So this has been Earl Skakel live on Sunday night. Pretty good crowd in here. I mean, I'm not approaching Dabbleverse numbers. I think I was watching Corn Diff and the Potato, and they had like 600 people. But hey, I'll take 12 on a Sunday night at midnight. Um, oh, really? Who was your father? A famous bodybuilder? Thank you, Johnny. Johnny. And yes, no problem. It's a big week for AEW. You've got Dynamite in Ontario, California. You've got Rampage and Collision being filmed at the Kia Forum on Friday, and then the big pay per view, Full Gear. Uh, no, I know it would, Catherine, but I'm just not. Um, I'm really not interested. When some guy the other night, because I didn't vote for Ray on that roast battle, he's like, "You suck. You don't add anything to anything you're on, and I hope you get bone cancer." Like, I'm good on that. Like, you guys can have that world. Okay, that's cool. Uh, but yeah, I don't mind. I'm in it for the long haul. Well, I just like the other night when that guy wished me bone cancer. It's like because I didn't vote for Ray DeVito, you're hoping I die of cancer. Like that's mental illness of the highest order. And you could tell by the way he worded the tweet, he meant it. I know when people are busting balls and stuff, but it's just like, oh my god, dude, the level of like not depravity, but the level of like anger or whatever that's insane. But you know, I'm gonna just try and do it. And I think the Dabbleverse world, even though I'm friends with pretty much everyone in it, I mean, I don't know Carl and that crew from what is it? Who are these podcasts? I barely know Steel Toe. It just it's kind of getting boring to me because the Stuttering John stuff is just it's been old for a very long time for me. Perry, because I've known him for so long, he might be new to some people, but like it's just the same shit for the last 25 years. Um, and like Kevin Brennan's one of my favorite comics. And I'm friends with Shuley. Uh, you know, but like the Venom, it's just so toxic. And I'm friends with Melton, but like when you have someone wishing you cancer because you didn't vote for someone in a stupid Zoom roast battle, it's like, uh, you know, I'm good. I'd rather have 9 people in chat on a Sunday night who I like, and you guys don't have to agree with everything I say. Um, but yeah, I mean, maybe he said that, Jordan. I don't know. Um, my boner might be the answer. Well, no, I disagree, Catherine. But like I'm not telling you you're wrong. Like, I've done a comedy show with John. He's a nice enough guy or whatever. But he had his 15 minutes of fame, and now people brought him back into the spotlight by shitting on the guy, and it's just old. It just I don't find it funny. Like we get it, he's a drunk. But it's made a lot of people a lot of money. I mean, uh, so, but I think that's the problem with the Dabbleverse in general is that um, you know you have to have targets, or else it's not Like Kevin said the other night, with Ray and Chad when the after the battle, they actually were, like, getting along and being support each other, and you could tell Kevin was like, "Oh, we can't have you guys getting along, it's bad for business." And then I get accused of, like, "Oh, you never take a side, you're always cucking for whoever." It's like, you just wanna be liked, and, like, when wanting to be liked is a bad thing, that's when I check out. And I do take a side, when it's warranted, you know? But in regards to that roast, and this will be the last time I talk about it, people are saying, "Oh, you're just friends with Chad, and you know, you voted for him." I actually I didn't. I said, this is why you can't please some people. I literally said Ray won the first round decisively. How is that cucking for Chad? I said in the second round, Ray had the best joke, but I still believe that Chad was more consistent. So he edged him out. I didn't say he killed him. I didn't say he squashed him. I said he edged him out, in my opinion. And then I said in the third round, neither one did enough to take it. How is that like cucking for Chad? And I was the only one who said, let's go to overtime. I wanted a winner, and I could care less who won, Ray or Chad. My life the next day would have been exactly the same. So, I mean, I could see people saying, "Okay, Earl, you said Chad killed him in all 3 rounds." Then that would be like, "Okay, you're just saying that because 'cause you're friends with Chad." But, like, you know. Or if I did what Buschetti did, and we all love Buschetti, but let's be honest what's going on there, and Buschetti was like, "I'm just gonna vote for Chad because I feel sorry for him." So, oh, good, I'm good glad, Dave. Dave, I'm just about to end this. I'm sorry you just got, what smelled worse, cat urine or Lemmy? It's a tie, to be honest with you. Well, I am friends with Chad, but people act like we're Thelma and Louise. I said that the other night on Ray's chat. I haven't seen Chad in person probably 3 to 4 years, um, and we talk maybe if he doesn't text me to do his football show, we talk maybe once every 2 months. Um, So, I mean, well, here's the thing with my opinions on roast battle and all that stuff. I'm the most qualified person to judge a roast battle in the Dabbleverse by a country mile. I mean, if you add up all the people in Kevin's chat, Ray's chat, Chad's chat, Melton's chat, I've judged over 100 battles. And, I was on the weekly show in LA for 5 straight years. So I literally have seen over 1,000 battles, legit over 1,000 battles. And I've also done 13 battles myself, so I know what Ray and Chad were going through. I know the mental pressure that they were both under. I mean, I battled Jimmy Carr on television. That's pressure with 1,000 people in the room and probably a couple 100,000 watching. I mean, it's Comedy Central. Let's be real. Um, so I feel very comfortable with my judging qualifications. And I watched the battle yesterday again, going, okay, everyone's saying I fucked up. Let me see what I missed or whatever. But I still believe in what I voted for. There's a technical draw, and I wanted an overtime. Um, I don't take back one word of what I said. But in terms of like I was on Miserable Men a few times. I wouldn't on the Shuley Network, and I wouldn't say I was a regular member, but I did do it like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Um, but I want to do my own thing. I'd rather struggle with 14 people listening to me and doing my own thing than being a fourth mic on any show. So, oh yeah, overtime. I don't know if either one had a lot left. Accurately looking back, because I've been where Ray is. Like how many battles, and I didn't do a lot of 3 round battles. I was more of a 1 round king. Um, But, the few 3-round battles I did, you start out on fire because you front load your battle with all your best jokes because you wanna hit the ground running. And then in the second round, I absolutely happened, what happened to Ray happened to me, where you kinda you hit a lit you're not bombing, but you definitely lose steam. And then in the third round, same thing. You might have one good joke, but the rest are okay. And I think the opposite, I've also been there where Chad was, where, Chad wanted this battle probably more than Ray did. And I think, there's a lot of pressure on Chad, like internally, because he's like, okay, I talked a lot of shit. Now it's time to back this up. And I thought Ray did an Earl move where 90% of my battles, I would make the other person go first because, it's just better to go second, get the rebuttal. Um, the fact the one battle I lost on TV was to my good friend Sarah Tiana because she made me go first because I believe Pat Barker, who was helping us both, said, "Hey, make him go first. He doesn't like to go first." And I kind of stumbled on my first joke because I'm not gonna lie, I was very fucking nervous. Um, but I think that happened to Chad where, Ray made him go first and he didn't stutter, but he stammered on the first two jokes, like you could hear the trembling in his voice. And then in the second round, he kind of steadied himself and was consistent. He didn't have an amazing second round, but I thought he beat him. He edged him, I said. So if there was no more Earl Kennedy, yeah, if there's no tits involved, I'm right down the middle. Um, Even though I'm late. Yeah, it's all good, dude. I mean, we've been going at it almost 2 hours on a Sunday night. I wasn't even gonna do one, but I just, see, I'm testing, different times to do the algorithm. Um, Sunday night might be a good night. I mean, I would say the average listeners' views I have in terms of the chat is like 4 to 6 people. It's the same 4 to 6 people, which I love, but Catherine's relatively new to me, and so here we are Sunday night. It's pretty late. We got 12 viewers. I think we had 16 at its peak. So you know, maybe people like hearing me talk about stuff other than AEW because I know it's a niche pocket to talk about. I am Jason. That's the whole plan. Uh, oh, I see the heart is in the way. Sunday night is. Um, well, I mean, I figure like Sunday night, people are, just chilling after watching football all day. And, well, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. If you're ever in LA, let me know. I'll take care of you at the comedy store. And that goes for everyone else in chat. I had a few people from my streams at the comedy store last night. So that's why I'm doing these, really. It's not for the super chat money, but it's for, you know, to not necessarily go I don't think streams go viral unless I said something, fucking wacky, but, to build up kind of a following and, so you guys can go, I'll follow them on Instagram and TikTok or whatever. And then, the industry notices, it's really, they don't care how funny you are. That's the crazy thing. This business is not based on being funny. It's how many followers do they have? I mean, literally, when I signed to my voiceover agency, and I'm with the number one agency by far, they are the top. Um, they didn't ask me anything about my voice or training. They're like, "How many followers do you have on Twitter and Instagram?" I don't think TikTok was necessarily blowing up back then, but because this is whoa, I don't know what that was. This was late 2017, early 2018. So that's just the way it is. Social media is the driving force behind if the industry wants to work with you. So it's good and bad. As a 55-year-old white, semi-normal looking comic, that's the worst category you can be in. Just is. Now, that's not me being bitter. It's just being honest. But, if one day this YouTube channel gets to be like super popular and thousands of new fans or whatever follow me on Instagram and whatnot, I will get gigs. No, I mean, I've got some possibilities, William, but um, the strike just ended, so the voiceover world isn't fully back and running. But hopefully, I mean, I'm in the best and worst category, super deep baritone, because there simply aren't a lot of guys with voices as deep as mine. But the downfall is there's not that many people you're competing against. Uh, but the ones I am competing against are all um, famous. Like I go up against Rob Riggle, Dylan McDermott, James Earl Jones, Billy Brown. So, uh, it's I have to literally hope those guys are busy. Now, James Earl Jones in his 80s, so he is probably close to semi-retirement, but I'm still, he still is up for things. The Arby's guy, I don't know his name, but we've got the meats. I go up against that guy all the time. So, I mean, yeah, thank you, Catherine. I do have my own style. It's kind of reminds me in Enter the Dragon when Bruce Lee is on the boat and some guy who's also in the karate tournament goes up to him and goes, "What's your style?" And Bruce Lee is like, "My style is the art of fighting without fighting." And that's kind of my style. Uh, Stand-up comedy, but done hopefully in a unique way. Um, I do like Judas Priest very much. I like their '80s output. I don't really vibe with their last couple years. I like Turbo. I mean, I like their hits. The classic Judas Priest. Dave Holland on drums, Ian Hill on bass, KK Downing, Glenn Tipton, the great Rob Halford. Of course, now Scott Travis he took over for Dave Holland, I think in '89. Crocus is okay. Earth sucks in the house. You know how much money that Arby's guy makes? I mean, he is the voice of Arby's. Um, so, I mean, I'll listen to a Ross. The Priest is kind of like Motorhead. I mean, with the exception of, you know, parental guidance and I think that cover they did for the Anthony Michael Hall movie Out of Bounds with Jenny Wright, who was they did a cover of Johnny Be Good that wasn't horrible, to be honest with you, but it just wasn't Judas Priest. Um, uh, they kind of remained pretty consistent with their musical styling. I'm going to be with Godfather talking about Judas Priest, 5 o'clock. I'll send you the link. Uh, I mean, if I'm around, I'll hop on. But I don't, Godfather or the Quadfather, he's too associated with the Dabbleverse. I'm really gonna try and break away from that whole world. It's just not. This is not for me, man. I gotta, because I'm not gonna really. I did enough shows with Shuley and my association with Melton, and it hasn't. And obviously MLC, I go on from time to time. But it's not like I picked up a ton of followers from being in that world as little as I was. So I'd rather do this and do my own thing. I love Jeff Kober. He was in that movie. It didn't do very well at the box office with Lou Diamond Phillips called the First Power, I think, and he was the serial killer. He's very good in that. He's also good in Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, I mean, Out of Bounds was, I think it was like, okay, it's a couple of years after 16 Candles, and I think Jenny Wright was still a pretty hot actress in terms of, people wanting to work with her, and it just didn't do well. I don't know why. Um, Raw Deal. Oh no, I think he did many more movies. I love Raw Deal. Great cast. I mean, if you look at the cast of Raw Deal, even though like the movie isn't really iconic, because it was kinda lobbed in there between, what was it, Commando and Total Recall. I forget the story, but I believe he had to do Raw Deal to get out some contract to do Total Recall. It's kinda like the Roy Scheider thing where Roy Scheider was in Deer Hunter, but he had to walk away from that movie to do, Jaws 2. But look at the cast of Raw Deal. You had the great, Paul Shinar, I think, he was the bad guy from Scarface, who tragically died of AIDS a few years after, Raw Deal. You had Robert Davi, good in everything. You had Sam Wanamaker as one of the bad guys. Stephen Hill was a bad guy from the Law and Order series. Catherine Harold was very hot back then. Uh, Ed Lauder, who I met at the car wash right the next block. I started talking to him. He's the original Captain Canower from Longest Yard, and we had a very nice chat on the bench. And he was telling me how he got to start in stand up, not acting. Yeah, Cobra really is a great character actor. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch The Killer. I got to get to that. Uh, well, I imagine Anthony Michael Hall was pretty hard to work with back then. I mean, he was a pretty big deal. Yeah, Sosa from Scarface. That's Paul Shinar, and Joe Regala Buto from Murphy Brown was the dirty cop. Resign or be prosecuted. Put your dog on camera. I can't, or sucks because my dog is with uh, her mom, Gail. Yes, Darren McGavin. I should have done better, but it just I think it was a weird time. I mean, '86 Cobra was out, Delta Force. I mean, I think Stallone and Schwarzenegger and probably Chuck Norris to a lesser degree were all racing the clock to beat each other's movies. It's like that submarine shit that was going on. You had Leviathan, Deep Star Six, and there was another sub movie. And they all came out literally in the same month. So that could have hurt Raw Deal. I mean, I think Dino De Laurentiis did it. So like it was like not it wasn't like it was an indie film, but you know, just for some reason, Running Man I think was pretty soon after that as well. So if you look at the two movies after Raw Deal, Running Man was a big hit, and the Total Recall was a big hit. So I think Raw Deal just gets lost in the shuffle of Terminator, Commando, and then Total Recall and Running Man, and in between that was Raw Deal. So it's just like timing. Maybe if Raw Deal came out before Commando, um, and the blonde girl from the girl who played his wife. I don't know her name, but she was the bitchy sister in 16 Candles. She was the wife in Raw Deal. She wasn't in it. I think she had maybe two scenes in the whole movie. Um, but yeah, I love Raw Deal. Blanche Baker, yes. William, you must have your computer on 80 standby when you're talking to me. Um, I don't remember the two blondes on Perfect Strangers. I didn't really watch Perfect Strangers, to be honest with you. Although I've met Bronson Pinchot a bunch because he worked out at the same gym I worked at many, many, many years ago. And of course, cousin Larry, Mark Baker White, he was in one of my favorite episodes of Miami Vice as the stereo salesman Bonzo Barry. If you go on my Patreon, you don't have to sign up, but I have two levels. I have the Daddy Man level, which is $20, and the Bonzo Barry level in tribute to Mark Lynn Baker. Um, I mean, I haven't watched lately. I don't really watch it. I mean, I have DirecTV, so I have that I think it's channel like 850 where you don't see the videos, but it's just a metal station. From time to time, I'll just have that on in the background. I used to watch Metal Mania a lot. Great Ricky Rackman. Um, yes, he did have a nice Porsche. That's one of my favorite episodes because you got Izzy in it, you've got the Noog Man in it, you've got who else was in that episode? John, the guy who played John Castellata. He was actually, I guess, a famous drummer in punk. No, I don't think Larry Zabisco was in that episode with Izzy and the Noog Man. But the character of who played like the mob guy, and they stole the cement mixer for John Castellata. I forget the actor's name, but he was like a big drummer in punk bands, which is weird because he didn't look like he was in that kind of music. So I am gonna stop the stream now, but who knows? We might do this on the regular Sunday nights. Yes, you have a great. We might be related, William. You have a very fine mind for '80s culture, uh, and who knows? Maybe I love you too, Earth sucks. I appreciate the all the shares and the retweets. It does help the listens and whatnot. And I think my next live stream, well, I'll probably do a Dynamite review, and I think I'm going to do that Thursday at 4 p.m. But I'll try and do maybe one more. Yeah, me too. I've literally seen every episode of Miami Vice at least 100 times. I try and be Air sucks, but well, it's funny. Before I go, you mentioned Chips, William. You know that Larry Wilcox was basically told he was going to be Don Johnson's character, Sonny Crockett. And I think they were waiting for Don Johnson to get out of his contract with some studio, so they basically were using Larry Wilcox. And like I believe Larry Wilcox was the one who screen tested with both Denzel Washington and Philip Michael Thomas. So yeah, I will, Jason. I just have to, I want to find subjects people are interested in, not just what I want to talk about, but it's a fine line. Like in my stand-up act, I talk mainly about what I want to talk about. Um, yeah, you can jerk off and listen to this. So listen's a listen, Nick the Nim, Nick the Neem, Nick the Dick. Um, so, but my stand-up is I talk about stuff that I'm interested in, and I think you laugh even though if you don't get the reference because you see like my boyish enthusiasm for the topic. But on live streams, you also got to talk about what other people want to talk about. Um, yeah, I mean Don Johnson. I think Brandon Tartikoff, the head of NBC, did not want him as the lead because I believe Don Johnson, up until that time, had done like 5 failed pilots, and Brandon Tartikoff was like, "No, I don't want him." But it all worked out. So, well, who wasn't coked up? Last thing, and then I gotta go. One time I was at Best Buy on Santa Monica and La Brea, and no, actually I take that back. Yeah, it's Santa Monica and La Brea, and I see this guy in a blue shirt, and I thought he worked there, so I tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, "Hey, do you know where the CDs are?" And it was Eric Estrada, Frank Poncherello, and he was so nice. He actually showed me where the CDs were. So, all right, guys, Earl Skakel, thank you. You know where to follow me at this point. But for the people who are going to listen who don't know who I am, just follow me everywhere: Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Earl Skakel. That's EARL SKAKEL. It's very easy. I'm the same on all social media. And I'll see you guys this week.